This is every way to prank your friends in Minecraft. When you're trying to prank your friends, there's few concepts that are as popular as the old switcheroo. And now in Minecraft, we got your main hand and we got your offhand. Except which is which can change up pretty easily. Since if we go into the accessibility options tab and then switch it so that our main hand is our left hand, now we'll be confusing anyone who looks at us. Since what they think we're holding in our offhand, we're actually holding in the main hand. And as Rasplin showed off in the SMP, this could be a great way to trick someone in a trade deal. For instance, they think you're gonna throw out something valuable like a diamond, since that's in your traditional main hand, when all that you actually end up throwing out is just a block of dirt. But if you do this, just make sure to keep your actual left hand ready on the controls to move away, because as soon as they realize, they're gonna want to chase after you. If you use a Silk Touch pickaxe to break a Skulk Shrieker, then when you place it back down, it won't spawn a warden, which sounds like a downside, but to us, it's the ultimate benefit. Since by following after Green and taking a bunch of these Skulk Shriekers and putting them in your friend's base, even if they're not spawning a warden, they're still gonna give off the sound like they do. And we can stack up the volume until eventually we've got up to 247 sounds playing at the same time. And the only reason we stop at 247 is because that's the literal limit for where Minecraft stops playing noises. But believe me, even at that number, that's gonna be more than enough to rupture their headphones. And because of the way that the Skulk sensor gives off a redstone signal, literally every step that they're taking trying to find this, they're just gonna keep setting off that noise, giving you plenty of bang for what should have just been a useless shrieker. Lag machines do what they're supposed to. They cause everyone to lag. But what if you don't want to be a part of the lagging bunch? I mean, after all, it's less fun to appreciate if you're also suffering along with your friends. Well, luckily, the way that we solve this so that we're not suffering, only your friends are, is to use something like non-stackable items. And when we throw down all of these non-stackable items like cake onto the floor, usually that would cause everyone around it to lag. It's rendering a lot of entities. But using a client-side mod like Tweakaroo, we can disable item entity rendering entirely. And there you go. Now we won't be lagging, and your friend who doesn't have the mod surely will. When your friend builds a nether portal, then that gives you the perfect opportunity to turn it into a trap. Now all we have to do is set up a little contraption with redstone like this, using tripwire hooks, some string, and then dispensers that'll break the portal once they go in. That way their portal still works on the way over there, and then as soon as they go through, it'll be broken on the other end. And if they don't have a flint and steel or a fire charge to get themselves back, they'll be pretty much stuck in one of the worst places to be stuck in. And at that point, the only hope is to find the materials to create a flint and steel from Nether Fortress chests or piglin bartering. And something tells me the flint and steel is the only thing that's more than they bargained for. Killing your friend's pet is an evil prank. That's why we're not going to be the ones to do it. Rather, they will be. Since with a trap like this, we're giving our friend the choice to choose which lever they need to pull to save their pet. So which of these levers do you think is the one that's going to be able to save their pet? Yeah, I thought that one too, but not so much. Since if you really want to be cruel, you could set this up also as a fake system where regardless of which lever they pull, their pet's gonna meet the same fate, to put it lightly. And to be extra cruel, you could also have one of the levers just drop TNT on top of them, so at least they won't be losing their pet, they'll both be going to the same spot. It's just a little further away from here than they thought. This trap might seem dumb, but that's what's so beautiful about it. Since all you have to do to set this up is go next to your friend's portal and then dig a 4x1 hole as deep as you'd like, so that when your friend thinks they're running up to their portal, they're actually just gonna fall into this pit and die on the dripstone. And folks, the dripstone is the key part here, because just by falling onto one of these tiny little spikes, that'll double the damage that you would have taken by just falling onto a regular block. And come on, it worked well enough for Clown Pierce to fall for it. And in my book, that's plenty proof that it's gonna work on any of your other friends as well. If it works for the best, it'll work for the rest. This is a diamond, and this is a diamond. Emphasis on the italics. Since by going through your friend's valuables and renaming them to even just the same name, they'll no longer be able to stack up the same way. And so if they have a full inventory, this can get annoying pretty quick. Especially since the only way to undo this prank is to take their new diamonds, craft them into diamond blocks, and then uncraft those back into diamonds. Giving you a prank where even if you know how it works and how to solve it, it's still gonna take some of their time to clean it up. When your friend logs onto this server, as far as they know, nothing's changed. At least nothing's changed yet. But by installing a data pack like this one by Gaming Barn, we're able to morph into different mobs in Minecraft, much like we've been able to do with morph mods in the past. Except this is pure vanilla. Your friend doesn't have to have anything installed on their end. And that's why they'll never expect it when you start to hide in with their cows and sheep. And at that point, you can get as crazy with this as you want. Whether that's hiding in their pig pen and giving them a slap when they come and try to kill you, or running away from them when they try to saddle you up and ride you as a horse. I mean, really, there's over 80 mobs in Minecraft that you could do this with, so the possibility for some great pranks are there. It's just up to you to choose which one. When your friend goes AFK, that's our turn to bring out the fishing rod. Since with the help of one of these, we're able to bring your friend up way sky high, until after a few attempts, items, we can actually place them on top of a TNT block like this. Now, right now, that TNT block is a solid ground, but it's not going to stay that way. Since when we sit on top a few blocks above and aim at them with a flame bow, then as soon as they log back in, we can shoot the block underneath them, and if the fall damage doesn't kill them, the block and TNT falling on top of them should be enough to do the job. Even if they manage to survive this with a water bucket, TNT still does damage even if it doesn't break blocks around it. Meaning even the most prepared of players are still in for a rude awakening when they come back in. Lodestones already feel like a waste, costing 1 netherite ingot just to craft one of these, but here's how to make it an even bigger waste. By programming a compass to a lodestone somewhere in the world, then we could place it in a chest at your friend's base and promise them awesome loot if they choose to follow it. Only when they actually end up traveling the thousands of blocks to get next to this, when they arrive, all they're gonna find is the lodestone and nothing else. And while there is a piece of netherite inside of that, it's not like it's usable. And on top of the insult to injury, they're gonna have to travel all those thousands of blocks right back home completely empty-handed. At first glance, this parkour jump looks impossible, and it basically is. That is, unless you jump at the exact right moment. And while we'll have built the system and know exactly when that moment is, when your friend's chasing after you, they're not gonna be privy to it, meaning that they fall into this 1 block gap and fall right the way down to their death. Which, the death would be bad enough, but they're also gonna have to live with the fact that they're not as good at parkour as you. And honestly, I think that's a bigger insult. It's like a lose-lose. When you're getting ready to give your friend a tour of your base, we're just gonna have them jump down this redstone trap door into the entrance to your base. I mean, why wouldn't they jump? There's water down there, must be safe. That is, until we push a button while we're down below that sends a redstone signal so that a brown mushroom will get filled up with bone meal and create a roof over the water that they were supposed to land on. I mean, this is basically the same thing that Dream did at the bottom of the ravine in the Manhunt, except way more technical. And reusable too. Just not reusable on the same friend. I doubt they'll be jumping down any other things after you pull this on them. At first glance, nothing looked dangerous about this. And really that's true. Nothing looks dangerous about it, but the only reason is because we used a texture pack to switch out the TNT texture to look like other blocks. And now when your friend comes over and puts on the texture pack to play some mini games, they're not going to be aware that all the grass blocks that they're standing on top of is actual TNT. And if you think this is too crazy to work, Planet Lord used this on Wreckcrap, and Wreckcrap's one of the most skeptical people that I know. So what your friend thinks is just some regular stone and spruce blocks, as soon as you flip the switch or ignite it with flint and steel, they're gonna be a little confused when that stone starts hissing. As of 1.20, chisel bookshelves are the newest container block that we have to play around with. But unlike a chest or a barrel we're able to hover over and see what's inside, these bookshelves have no visual difference between the different items that you place inside. And that's where the prank comes in. Since now we can use all of those enchanted books that your friends stacked up into their enchanted bookshelves, instead fill it up with junk books like Curse of Binding and all that. Now, it's not going to trick them into accidentally putting this on their armor, but there's also no way for them to tell that you played this prank until it's too late. And then we can run off with the many books in the meantime and not have to worry about being caught. From this angle, my skin looks fine, but in actuality, we've flipped it around so that my textures for my skin are actually played on my back, which gives you a great way to mess with your friends. And to go one step further and keep up the facade, if you play in third-person mode with F5, then you can navigate while keeping your skin properly oriented. That is, until it's time for the big reveal and your friend thinks they're doing something behind your back, only for you to have been able to see the entire thing all along. Spawning the Wither makes for a pretty good prank, but it's also pretty destructive, and you don't want it to go around and then destroy your stuff after it destroys your friends. And here's how to get all that same scare without having to do any of the cleanup that's associated with it. All you have to do is act like you're gonna spawn the Wither in the middle of your friend's house, but just make sure that you're placing the soul sand blocks above any non-air block. That could be something like torches, grass, string, carpet, whatever. As long as it's not air, any of those will keep the Wither from actually spawning. Or you could also place down the 3 skulls of the Wither formation first, and then put in the T-shape underneath it. That'll also stop it from spawning, since the game only checks if the skull is one of the last blocks placed, which should give you just the right amount of scarecrow to be able to scare your friends. And hey, if it doesn't work, you can always just break one of those skulls and build it the right way. That's sure to scare them. If you know that your friend plays around on lower render distances, then this is the perfect prank to play on them. All we gotta do is use a fishing rod or a bubble elevator to get them up into the world height, and then recreate Skyblock up here in the sky. I guess that part's obvious. So then, when your friend finally wakes up from going AFK, they'll think that they've logged onto an entirely different server. Or at the very least, they'll be very confused on how to get down. And honestly, speaking as someone who likes Skyblock, I wouldn't even be that angry if you played this on me. But if you set me up where I couldn't actually build a cobblestone generator, then we'd be having a different conversation. Here's how to make your friend's house a homie. Since most people have windows or openings, that you could very easily add some big eyes or a mustache to their build. And it's a lighthearted way to give them a laugh next time that they visit their base. You can even do what we've done in the past where you make the house into a looking eyes illusion, where you stand from this point, the eyes are looking at you here, and walk underneath and they'll still be looking at you. It's a great way to make their build come to life, literally. Making a shop on a server is a great way to make profit. But see, where most businesses go wrong is that they sell products that actually work. And that's how we're going to increase increase our profit margin. Since by having a weapons, armor, or tool shop where the items are dispensed out to your friends, we could have it so that they have no idea that they're actually buying tools that are almost near broken. At least until it's too late. And to make that armor even better, give it Curse of Binding, and then they'll really be stuck with having to wear it right until its bitter end. But luckily for them, that's coming soon. And the best part is that they can't even salvage the item back in an anvil, since once it's on them, it's on them. Another data pack that you can use to trick your friends is this one from Vanilla Tweaks. Since while the Warden itself would be pretty loud, I mean, they have an attack called a Sonic Boom that kind of gives it away. If you take a name tag and rename it to Silence Me, then when you add that on top of the Warden, it'll no longer make another noise for your friends to hear. And now the only thing that'll tip them off to the Warden nearby is the darkness effect, which is definitely noticeable, but it's also definitely confusing. So I think the prank still works either way, especially if you manage to tuck one of these inside your friend's house. Then by the time they get the darkness effect and start wondering what's happening, it'll already be too late. Tinted glass is a very popular block to use now at mob spawners, which I think is too bad for our regular stained glass, and that's how we're gonna fix it. Since if you use black stained glass in place of their tinted glass, they look visually very similar, except for one key difference, being that the black stained glass actually doesn't stop the light level from coming in. And at that point, they'll be very confused as to why their spawner farm stopped working, since even though it visually looks the same, it's just that little bit of light level that's able to throw the whole thing off. But it's their fault for needing a view-in window. Here's how to turn your friend's giant piston door into way more of a domino effect. Since by just taking one of the pistons inside of the giant redstone or slime honey block door and turning it around, then all of a sudden, all the slices of the door aren't moving in sync, which can then cause them to stick together and seize up the entire contraption, until eventually you have a cascading effect and the entire door falls apart. I mean, it's their fault for having that fancy of a door for their vault. Having stuff to put inside the vault's already a flex. You don't need to also show off in the door to keep people out. Here's how iron helmets can be one of the most annoying items in Minecraft. Since taking a page out of Wreckcraft's book, if we place down 1,000 helmets inside of your friend's base, place them inside of item frames, armor stands, and every chest that they have, it's gonna take a long time to clean up. For one, helmets aren't stackable, and even the armor stands only stack up to 16, which is itself very annoying. And while it seems like it would cost a lot of iron to do this, that is true, but it's also not like the iron that they're gonna get out of it is very usable. Once you have diamond armor, whoever needs an iron helmet? And the most you can get out of these is just a couple of measly iron nuggets, which is a far cry from the 5 iron ingots that you were spending otherwise. So if you have a proper iron farm and the time to set this up, it's a really effective prank to play on your friends. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?